Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. This episode is brought to you by autorescuetools.com and Isaac Rodell. If you are looking to get into module programming, but you are not sure what kind of laptop you're going to need or how to set it up for programming, Isaac is your guy. He can set up laptops specifically to do control module programming for specific brands with partitioned hard drives and all the software that you're going to need to do this. He also sells key cutting equipment, scan tools, and other diagnostic equipment. I bought some stuff from him in the past, and the support is phenomenal. So I highly recommend checking out the website. Again, that's autorescuetools.com. The link will be in the show notes. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping, and I will be your host once again for this week's episode. Just me this week. I'm going to talk to you about what is on my mind. I was thinking about as I do every week when I make the podcast, of like, what was the interesting car? What was the interesting obstacle that we overcame this last week? How was I challenged in diagnostics, right? All that stuff that you normally hear on the show. And of course, every week we learn something. Every day I learn something on cars. But there's another thing that is consistently on my mind lately, and that's kind of what the show has been about for me as a whole, is, getting people on the show that I'm interested in hearing about, and then talking about topics that I am interested in. And that's what I'm doing today, is like the thing that I can't stop thinking about and that I want to share with the listening audience. And, I titled the episode as, skill mobility or skill agility. And that's where I'm going to start with this, but really it's the advancements that have been coming around in the last couple months with agentic AI systems and what's capable right now and what it's going to look like in the future. But I want to talk directly to the audience of this show, right? Technicians, shop owners, mobile guys and gals that are doing this stuff every day, that you can be at the forefront of this stuff. And I think the listeners of this show, the people who are interested enough to listen to me yammer on about intricate vehicle diagnostics and programming and stuff like that for hours on end, you are the exact kind of person who is in a prime position not only to be agile in your skill development and take on the new stuff and be ahead of the trend, but also to benefit from the things that are coming down the pipeline. So I want to talk about it, my experience and my thoughts on the future, which I don't know. I think it's going to be crazy. Maybe I'm an optimist. Maybe I'm a dreamer. I don't know. But the rate at which things are accelerating right now, and I think that is really the key piece of it that a lot of people don't yet quite grasp, is it's not what is capable or present right now with the technology that's out there, but the rate at which it is accelerating and will continue to accelerate. And it's almost scary if you really extrapolate out, and probably not even that far. Things are going to change so much faster than we're even capable of perceiving, in my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong. I don't know yet. But what I can speak to is what's going on right now and how it has progressed just in the last few months. So if you pay attention at all to AI and the current tools out there, and I can tell you, talking to people in my life, a lot of people really don't. Most people are like, yeah, I've used ChatGPT to help, me build a grocery list or find, the restaurants around me that are good to go visit. And it's great for stuff like that. But again, things are advancing so quickly, and the tools that are available to anyone right now have dramatically shifted in the last few months. And I actually want to get Fonzel back on the show to talk some more details about this. So expect an episode in the near future where we dive into this with more than just, Sean's optimistic viewpoint of this. But again, this is what is on my mind. So I couldn't pick a car out from the last couple of weeks that was, more relevant or important for me to talk about on the show than this stuff, because it's the center of what I'm doing right now. So what has really developed and shifted that is available to the general public and people like myself is the agentic AI systems that you can now implement. And if you haven't been, following along with the advancement of the tools, the shifting point was this program that was developed by an independent person called OpenClaw. And this is a system that you run locally on a laptop, or people are doing it on Mac Minis. And it's powered by Claude. The company is called Anthropic. And it's, you could think of it as a similar system to ChatGPT. It's better in my opinion, just from my experience using both. But it uses that as the engine behind it. But it allows you to set up agents, which, you've probably seen The Matrix, so it's not quite like that, but it's a bot, it's a AI system, if you will. It's hard to exactly define what it is, but it is something that you can interact with that can actually do things for you. Now, what do you mean by do things? Well, that's a very open-ended question with this system, the OpenClaw, because it is really just limited by what can be done on a computer, your imagination, and your tolerance for risk. And by that, I mean, what are you going to allow it to do or give it access to do? Because there's a huge, crazy security risk with this current version. But this has kind of taken the technical world by storm because of what it is capable of. And if you look out there, there's stories and examples of where things can go terribly wrong. Like if you give it financial information and logins and stuff, like things can go very, very badly for a number of different reasons. And I guess maybe I should preface everything with what I'm saying right now is that, like, look into this, at your own risk and understand what the potential risks are if you're going to allow something like this to, act on your behalf or do things for you. So take it with some caution going into it. Read up on the security risks if you're going to look into it. But I'm not so focused on, what is right now, what is today, February 22nd, 2026, because as I've told a lot of people along the way, and again, the rate of acceleration comes into play here, is that the stuff that we're using today and looking at today is the worst it will ever be, right? It is only going to get better. And what I mean by that in reference to the OpenClaw thing is that there's going to be, and there is already, companies that have seen what the capabilities are of something like this and are developing methods that can be done much more securely and safely, that could be integrated at like an enterprise level. So, a big corporate structure could use something like this. And the guy who developed this, I don't know his name, but he got hired by OpenAI within, a few weeks of putting this thing out into the world. But where this changes things is this, takes your LLM that you interact with as an AI system, and it allows it to perform tasks autonomously. Now, it's going to interact with you, and you tell it what you want it to do and what you don't want it to do and how you want to do it. And you're going to have to put some effort into training it to do it the right way. It's kind of like training an employee, just in my personal opinion. But if you do that and you set it up, it can run tasks independently, okay? And this, to me, has completely changed the capabilities of just interacting with an LLM, and then an agent who can do things, on a schedule or independently without me. Now, obviously, like I said, a lot of risk, right? What if it does the wrong thing? What if it shares the wrong information? The systems you're giving it access to could have sensitive information. Yes, that's all 100% true. And I'm not so focused on that right now. I'm being very cautious as I experiment with my own stuff. But what I see is the future of this 5-10 years down the road. I mean, even sooner, but what it's going to look like and what it's going to mean for, everybody, but obviously I'm focused on, my business and people within the automotive space. But when we make that shift away from, hey, I input something into ChatGPT and then it gives me an output, which has a ton, almost endless possibilities of what you can do with that. And it has its own impressive use cases. I've talked about them on the show, and ways that it's saved me an enormous amount of time at specific tasks. But that is the key. It unlocks all kinds of new possibilities for someone who is running a business, or even just any technician in the automotive space. Again, expands way out beyond the automotive world. It's probably going to touch most careers, but of course I'm focused in on the blue collar world because that's what I do, right? I fix cars, and I am viewing this as a tool of how can I have it help me both fix the cars and, in my case, run my business. So some of you listening may run your own business. Maybe you're a technician in a shop. Either way, there's ways to utilize this. And this is my thought process as this shifts to something that can do things for you on a scheduled basis or autonomously. It is allowing you to perform tasks that would otherwise be taking away from your ability to do the core thing that you do that makes money. Okay. And I can look at this as a business owner very clearly that me right now, granted, I am kind of making the shift to trying to run the business, not be in the business, but the fact of the matter is I am still in the business, and personally, I still love the actual fixing of the car. It's my passion. I'll probably never stop completely. But anyways, there are things that I can do that are core to the business and actually bring in money directly. And if you look at that from the technician standpoint, that is diagnosing cars, that is programming modules, that is calibrating ADAS systems, and then cutting and programming keys, right? If I'm doing that, I'm bringing money into the business. But things take me away from that, again, especially as a business owner. And I guess this episode isn't exactly about how you shift from one to another or balance one another. That's a whole nother conversation. But I do a lot of other things that aren't, I should say I do a surprisingly large amount of things that aren't the core thing that makes the business money. Even if you just looked at running the business and the things that really move the business forward, I still spend a lot of time on things that take me away from that, right? And there's a lot of material out there that tells you as a business owner to focus on the biggest constraint, and that is the main thing that you should be focused on of your business, right? Your business isn't growing because of one main thing at any given point, right? Are you supply constrained? Are you demand constrained? Okay, you should work on getting more people, or you should work on marketing, or right? There's 100 different things that can be going on there, but you should have a focus, and this is really the thing that's moving the needle, right? And let's say you're a technician, right? That thing is getting the car fixed, but you probably have to do a lot of other things that don't directly fix the car. Okay. As a technician, these are things like research for a particular job. And that's not even just the job. That's research on tooling, research on techniques, diagnostic methods, known problems of a vehicle. Also, invoice documentation, or documenting what you actually do for future reference. And those things take a lot of time, especially if you're doing them manually. And I've talked about how you can use systems like even just using a project within ChatGPT to enter the information vocally, like talk to it, and then it will spit out a formatted output that you can put into an invoice or put into whatever file structure you have that saves information on what you're doing for future reference. But we're now getting to the point, like I mentioned, where it's not just an input-output thing, that it's you set it up with one of these agent tools. And like I said, OpenClaw is the one that's out there right now. And if you're reading about this stuff, it's the one that's front and center. But there will be more. There's already Claude Cowork, which is a version of Claude that you download on your desktop, and it can work within your files, and it can do some stuff autonomously, which I'm just experimenting with right now. But that stuff's only going to grow in popularity and capability and security too. That's the other thing, where it is going to be more and more capable to perform the tasks that eat up your time and eat up your day. And so I am happy to have Automotive Seminars as a sponsor for the show. Now, if you're not familiar, Automotive Seminars is a diagnostic technician training company. They've got a website that there'll be a link to in the show notes. And what they offer is top-notch training to technicians like us in the field. I've been taking their training courses for years and have got a ton of benefit out of it. They've got top-notch instructors, John Thornton, Scott Shotton, Scott Manna, and every other month they've got a 2-night course that you can sign up for. Join in, ask questions, and afterwards, you've paid for the course, you can access a recorded version whenever you want. You can rewatch the class 2 years later in case you wanted some details on it. And that is a fantastic feature. So make sure to check out the website to see what courses they have available and what's coming up in the future. Going back to the title episode where, it's skill agility, I really think it is important to look at the current tools that are available, the new stuff that's out there, where it's going, what's happening with technology like this, and asking yourself, where can I utilize this stuff? Or, I guess first, do I really understand what this stuff is, how to use it? Should I take some time to actually figure it out, to play with it, to experiment, to learn it? And that's the agility portion of this. And again, I think listeners of the show, if you've made it this far into hundreds and hundreds of episodes of me blabbing on about stuff, you are the exact person who is primed to learn this stuff as it comes out, to be on, the tip of the spear, the cutting edge, and figure this stuff out before everybody else does, right? And the reason I say that is because we have to do that as the top of the game, diagnosticians, programmers, ADAS techs, security professionals out in the automotive world, especially if you're doing this stuff, independent, not to take anything away from the dealers, but, guys that are out there doing this independently and have been for a while, you have to be able to learn new stuff all the time. Every single day. Okay, there's a new software out. Okay, there's a new, platform for programming. There's new tools, right? There's new cars. We're always learning the new thing that comes out. And right now, this is the new thing, is this agentic work and what it's capable of. And I haven't even fully implemented all of the possibilities that this can help me with, both, with fixing cars and with running my business. But I'm experimenting, and that's the key, is figure this stuff out. Unfortunately, it comes very, very fast, and tomorrow is different than it was today. But that's why I feel it's so important to okay, let me dedicate some time to try to learn these tools. But again, the focus is specifically on the agentic work that is coming into play right now, and that it is capable of running tasks for you that allow you to then take your time to do what you do best, right? Whatever that is, the thing that really moves the needle for you, your business, your job, whatever it might be. And heck, maybe it's even outside of your job and you just want to focus more on your family. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You can take the time that you were spending on a specific task that is repetitive, that you could instruct someone or something to do, and then you move that into, an agent that's capable of doing this stuff. And, there's a lot of stuff out there of like, hey, the more and more you use AI, the dumber you get, turns off your brain. And hey, there's a reason to believe that. If everything that you want an answer to, you just immediately go to AI and you don't try to actually learn anything yourself, yeah, you're going to atrophy something here. But in my opinion, I can at least decide, which skill set I want to atrophy, or what repetitive thing, like entering something into a spreadsheet that doesn't really improve me or my life, or a skill that I really feel like I need to have. If I had to go back to doing it manually, okay, maybe I figure it out. But that I don't necessarily need to do these things. They're not important to me. Again, they don't move the needle. And then I can put that time that I've given, to this particular tool into something else and developing a skill set that actually does really mean something to me. It can help you learn too if you do it in the correct way, right? You can ask along the way of like, hey, how is this working? How are you doing this stuff? And what I mean by that is like, for instance, with these tools, I've made some software. Now, guys, listen, I am not the person who would be able to do that all on my own, at least not right now. I would have to spend, I don't know, months, years, like learning and researching and practicing in order to code software. Yeah, maybe I could figure it out over a certain period of time, but that's exactly it. It's like, I don't have the time to do that, so I've never done it. But with these tools, I can build software. I shouldn't say the tool is building the software based off of what I'm looking for. It's vibe coding. If you haven't heard the term, is like, hey, here's what I want. Can you make it? Oh, can we make this a little different? And there's still work behind it. You still have to tell it what you want. But again, these tools are there and you can build something that is specifically suited for you, your business, what you do. And it doesn't cost the, hundreds of thousands of dollars that it would for like a software development company to make something in the past. And that's where, man, I get so excited when I see like, oh, I just, with the help of the AI systems, built a software that does something specific for my business that now, I mean, just the fact that I made it was cool, but that it now saves me time. Like I don't have to go in and manually do this thing every single day. And the work is front loaded because you do have to work with it, develop it, train it. It's like training an employee, like I mentioned, where it's some back and forth until you get things right and working out the bugs. But then once you get something usable, man, it has the potential to save you all kinds of time. And again, weigh what you're giving up and really think about it. Is this task that I am trying to get it to accomplish something, a skill that I actually value? Or is it just something that I have to do? Is it a means to an end? And this is something that I've thought about as I've used these tools and I found the best way to interact with them, which by the way is talking to these AI systems. The voice transcription on most of these tools is excellent, meaning that you don't have to type on your phone. You don't have to type on your computer unless you want to. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, my typing and my spelling are not going to improve and they're probably going to get worse if I just get used to talking to this thing. Now, I think it's way more efficient, right? I can get across my thoughts and I'm not the fastest typer in the world. So my ability to talk to these tools and then have it understand what I'm saying is lights out the best way to go. But yeah, I'm not going to get any better at typing. And I wasn't the best to begin with, right? That's a skill that is definitely going to atrophy. And I think of a scene from a movie, and actually a lot of the stuff that has been coming along recently really makes me think about this. Now, I'm a giant nerd, and yeah, I can hear Tommy right now making fun of me, but Star Trek movies back in the 80s and the early 90s, there was one of the movies, this is the original cast, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and them, and they travel back in time in the movie, right? So they go to 1985, and computers are just beginning to be a thing there, and the engineer from the Enterprise is working with a local business owner, and he kind of shows him to a computer, with a keyboard and a mouse and stuff. And if you've watched Star Trek, they just talk to their computer, right? They'll just say, computer, do this. And there's, an audio response. They're not necessarily typing on a keyboard to interact with the ship's computer. And so he tries to talk to the computer, and everybody, of course, 1985, they're looking at him like, what's wrong with this guy? He's like, computer, are you there? And then he holds the mouse up to his mouth and says, computer. And he's like, just use the keyboard. So then he uses the keyboard, and you see him, he starts to peck, one finger at a time. He gets faster and faster. And what it makes me think is that, some of the previous ways that, like typing, for instance, may become something that is completely antiquated and unnecessary. And I think about that when I think about skill sets, and okay, I'm giving this up, and I'm not going to be the fastest typer. Never was. Wasn't going to be, but I definitely won't be now that I'm talking to these tools. And so I'm okay with that. Personally, like, I'm fine. I know how to type. I'm not going to get any better at it because I'm usually using a voice transcription. That's a skill set that I'm okay atrophying. But on the flip side of things, seeing what these tools are capable of and how to utilize them, I think that is a skill that I should really lean into and understand. And you're not going to be perfect at it right away, right? Let's say you go out today, you listen to this episode, you go, figure out OpenClaw, which isn't the easiest thing to get set up, by the way. Just a warning right there. It takes a little bit to get this actually set up. There's some, resources and some technical ability just to get that far. But you get this set up, even once it's running, you might not have the best idea of how to use it because there's never been anything quite like this. And so you have to experiment, because maybe you have an idea and you're like, oh, I'd really love for it to do this. But then you find out, oh, okay, well, it's not so great at that. And I remember finding that initially with ChatGPT. Like in the fall of 22, I'm playing around with ChatGPT. I'm like, oh, what if it could do this? I can't quite do that. But that's the thing, is like really feeling where the edges are and what it's capable of. And of course, it'll be different tomorrow, but figuring out how these new tools work and how they can benefit you, which again, I think they really, really can, that's worth it. That's worth the agility. And I think that is where the future of successful people are going to lie, is their ability to shift and adapt to the tools that are available and not be that guy. And I'm sure if you've been, alive long enough, you remember people that refuse to use a computer or refuse to use email. I knew those guys. I worked with those guys when I first entered the field of, I don't use a computer. And this was, 2006. Like, I mean, you are putting yourself in an extreme disadvantage. And I think this is that tool times 10. To say that, AI is BS, it's hype, I'm not going to mess around with it, I think is a huge mistake. And I think we need to be able to recognize the tools and the value and experiment and see where their limitations are, what we can actually use them for. But check it out. That's the whole point of this episode, is to really encourage everybody who's listening to explore this stuff, see what's out there, see what might be possible, experiment with it. Because as time moves forward, and it's going to happen quickly, I think it's really important to understand these things, and the ones that will be rewarded are the people who do this, figure this out, and know how to integrate it into what they're doing. And especially in the blue collar world, I think we can utilize these tools to do repetitive tasks that take away from our big needle moving function within our job or our business. So that's where I'm going to wrap this one up for today. Like I said, I hope to have some other people on to talk more in depth about the AI topic specifically, but we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts on it. If you've got anything to add to this, shoot me an email, put it in the Facebook group, whatever. You know how to get a hold of me. But that's all I've got for today. So thank you for listening. Let's get out there, start fixing the world one car at a time.